It may come as a shock to most St. Louisans that French culture in St. Louis is heavily reflected in our street names, the fleur-de-lis in our flags, and having the second biggest Mardi Gras celebration in America, and the city being named after the King of France. St. Louis was actually founded in Spain. That's right, St. Louis was founded in the European country of Spain. Well, technically. It's debatable. Take a look into the interesting start of our great city. Back in the day, like way back, like 1700s, before the US was even a country. You had the three big players in the colonization game, that being Great Britain, Spain, and France. The soon-to-be location of St. Louis being right around here where it says France. And one thing to mention, these guys love fighting each other. In 1762, the King of France and the King of Spain, they got together, and France said, hey Spain, I'm really sorry I dragged you into all these wars. As a token of my appreciation, I'm going to give you all this land, which was known as Louisiana. But Spain, you've got to promise to keep it on the down low and don't tell anyone. Not yet. So they drafted up an agreement called the Treaty of Fontainebleau, and boom, just like that, all this French land became Spanish land. And nobody knew about it, except for the kings. Very strange. The three countries were already in the middle of a war called the 7 Years' War, which ended the next year in 1763. Well, France and Spain lost, and Great Britain won. And when they signed the Treaty of Paris, Great Britain got all this land east of the Mississippi, which they thought they were taking from France, but really we know they took it from Spain. This caused a mass exodus of French colonists that moved to the other side of the Mississippi to what they thought was still France, because they thought the British wouldn't treat them well. Enter in Pierre Laclede and his 13-year-old stepson Auguste Chouteau, who traveled up the Mississippi River from New Orleans to establish their fur trading monopoly, which they got permission from the French government to do. They arrived here at Laclede's Landing downtown and started building the city of St. Louis. But pay attention to these dates. The city was founded on February 15th, 1764. 2 months later, on April 21st, 1764, France finally spilled the beans. They said, hey everybody, guess what? You've actually been in Spain for the last 2 years. Good luck. France out. Yeah, that didn't sit well with the people. When they actually sent Spanish governors to administer the lands, there was a rebellion and they kicked them out for a while. But Spain eventually came out on top. You see, the biggest distinction on whether St. Louis was a French or a Spanish city really comes down to who was governing the land. St. Louis was technically founded by Frenchmen who thought they were in France, on lands that were governed by the French government, but it was technically owned by Spain. It wasn't until a little bit after the founding of St. Louis that Spain actually owned the land and governed the land. But some of you were probably like, wait, didn't we buy the Louisiana Purchase from France? And yes, Spain eventually did trade back the Louisiana territory to France in exchange for modern-day Tuscany. And St. Louis became French again for a total of 3 years, but it was still administered by Spain. And that short guy in France, Napoleon, really liked starting wars, but he needed some more money for it. So he sold the Louisiana territory to the USA. This transfer of land to the USA was celebrated in St. Louis as Three Flags Day. This is where they lowered the Spanish flag, then raised the French flag, and then lowered that flag and raised the American flag. And what a crazy history of the city. It can really be debated either way which country controlled St. Louis and what country it was founded in. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to follow, because most of you aren't. And check back in my page for more St. Louis content.